Tony Reed has our visiting Rotarians. Hey, Martin.
Today we have from Lake Hickory, Floyd Lucas and David Hood.
Thanks, Tony. Do we have any guests of Rotarians today?
I have with me Dr. Rick C. S-E-A-Y. He's the new headmaster of Hickory Day School. Please welcome.
I didn't have to get up there.
She usually edits out our singing anyway. I don't know why.
Okay, you already got it going.
It's going, yeah.
President Mark, I have as my guest Charlie Reeves,
DD kicked Thornton off
longtime
the team.
Hickory native,
Yeah,
I
all right.
knew that was
friend,
coming.
now
Did you read his
retiree.
apology there?
We might be able to join me in that.
Great, welcome.
Trouble
Do we have
is,
any
seems to
other
follow
guests
certain
of
people.
Rotarians?
No sooner
Do we have any announcements?
Excuse me, who was that guy?
Anybody have any announcements today?
He spoke to me, I didn't.
But I just want to say,
It might have been anyway.
this week, or close to it, is my 15-year anniversary of being a Rotarian. The reason I know that is because it's my 15-year wedding anniversary. I joined Rotary on October 5th, 2000. We got married 2 days later, so I don't know why I want to share that.
I recommend it costs him $2.
I bet it cost him more than that.
Probably cost them a lot more than that over 15 years. Congratulations, Frank. Does anybody else have any announcements? Steve, do you have an update on Neil for us?
Unless Sandy will, Sandy, you want to give an update on Neil?
You don't have $2.
I didn't bring my money.
That's a Rotary now.
Well, first of all, he appreciates all your prayers and calls and so on. He is continuing to improve. He's in therapy all day long, in occupational and physical and speech. And he's getting feeling back in his right arm, which is a good thing. But with that comes some pain from the nerve endings and so on. And he's working through that and appreciates all your support.
Thanks, Sandy. That therapist wasn't a Bears fan. I'm sure he or she will be in a week or two. We've got some sign-ups over here. LR Tailgate, not this Saturday, but next Saturday the 10th. There was forms on the table last week, so if you did sign up there, we still have them. They just didn't make them to the meeting today, so you don't need to sign up again. But if you haven't signed up and you'd like to, please sign up here and just put if you're going to bring any guests with you. We also, too late for t-shirts, but we still have room for Carolina Cycle Challenge if you'd like to sign up for that and volunteer. There is a chance it will be postponed. They're supposed to let us know tomorrow. In case any of you haven't noticed, they're calling for gloom and doom, of course, for weather this weekend. They're going to meet tomorrow and let us know on that. Anthony Langston set us up with a tour of Transportation Insight, their new building. And so we're going to tour that on November 10th at 5:30. Be an hour tour, 5:30 to 6:30. And then I believe some Rotarians after that are going to get together and have a beverage or two, maybe at Highland Restaurant or somewhere. So if anybody is interested, you will not need to sign up for that portion of it. Also, congratulations to Susan Smith-Walker for her big announcement. And in case anybody didn't see it, I printed out the press release that they sent out that she got ordained. And that's here. And then a wonderful photo. So if anybody wants to take a look at that on the way out, that they sent out. Let's see. Yeah, I think that does deserve a clap. Congratulations. Also, wanted to bring up Salvation Army bell ringing. Put December 4th, Friday, December 4th, and Friday, December 11th on your calendar. We're going to have the Walmart and Sam's again from 9 to 9, both of those days. Clarence told me he's disappointed in us. We came in second again this past year, so we're aiming for the big red bell this year. So we hope everybody will be able to take some shifts and help us out on those days. Also, on the table for the second week, John LaFontaine is on the table. So if you haven't met him, he is in the orange shirt sitting with the ladies there in the second table from the back in the middle. So, but he is on the table. So make sure everybody checks that out. We also got a very nice letter. Enclosed is a check from the Hambrick Memorial Foundation in the amount of $1,000. This gift is in loving memory of my sweet dad, Robert T. Hambrick Jr., who died February 16, 2015. These funds are to be used by Hickory Rotary Club for Rotarian Idol in an unrestricted capacity. Using the foundation name in articles or advertising is permissible. And then it goes on just about some details about changing this. But that's very nice. I'll put this over here too, but I think that deserves a clap as well. It's very nice of them to think of us for that and send us that check. And Dan Kirby assured me the check is in the bank. Carol, let's see. John Ross, Sunshine Committee.
That was like almost a sustained ovation. Better applause than I get sometimes at concerts. Birthdays. Today is Dean Doucette's birthday. I didn't see Dean. Dean, are you here?
I found out today Dean's transferring. He got a new job in Myrtle Beach, and so he will be leaving the club, unfortunately.
Well, we hope that the hurricane doesn't get him. And William Miller Zarell is tomorrow, Friday. Bill, are you here? No, he's celebrating his birthday early, I guess. Health of the club. Thanks, Sandy, for that update on Neil. I'm unaware of any other major issues at this time, but if anybody has anything to offer for the good of the membership, please let us know. Good news. Top 25 restaurants in the South. None in Charlotte at this time. Raleigh, Asheville, Chapel Hill, and Hickory. I mention this because Highland Avenue is the Western Piedmont Symphony's official restaurant sponsor. Wait a minute, Mark.
There we go.
Now, if you want to try them out this Saturday from 5 to 7, they offer a pre-symphony 3-course meal for $30. In fact, here's a good plan for Saturday. Get up and go to brunch downtown. Go to the farmer's market, but eat first. At 2 p.m., go to the LR versus Carson Newman football game. But get there early because LRU grad Adrian Smith will be performing our national anthem. After the game, go to Highland Avenue for that aforementioned deal. The Symphony box office opens at 6:30 p.m. at P.E. Monroe Auditorium. At 7:30, the Symphony begins the 51st season. Incidentally, it's my 25th, with a very attractive program featuring Adrian Smith. Adrian is a Hickory native, and he's back from a summer with the Santa Fe Opera, where he sang in the premiere of the new opera Cold Mountain, based on the Charles Frazier book. We're also going to play a piece by Bill Harbison, who is the former dean of the Hayes School of Music at Appalachian State. Can I get a cheer from John Olson about that? Come on, John. I know it's not football, but you know, there you go. There are some other things going on up in Boone as well. We're going to throw in Tchaikovsky's Capriccio Italian, Rimsky-Korsakov's Capriccio Espagnol. I'd like to welcome a little early our new school superintendent, Dr. Adele. We want you to know that you can call on us, Dr. Adele. As a Rotary Club, when it comes to education, we answer the phone and we won't hang up on you if you ask for something. We might not always say yes, but we sure will try to do that. Now, a bit of parting, well, hopefully non-offensive humor. Well, I looked up trombone jokes because, you know, I play the trombone, but there is not a single clean trombone joke. Let's see. And, of course, I could always do the how many teachers does it take to screw in a light bulb? I'll leave that one to you, Doctor. And after the visit of the Holy Father, it seems tacky to tell a priest, rabbi, and Baptist preacher joke. So, reaching the end of a job interview, the HR officer asks a young engineer fresh out of MIT, "And what salary are you looking for?" The engineer replies, "In the region of $125,000 a year, depending on the benefits package." The interviewer inquires, "Well, what would you say to a package of 5 weeks vacation, 14 paid holidays, full medical, dental, a company matching retirement fund to 50% of salary, and a company car leased every 2 years, say a red Corvette?" The engineer sits up straight and says, "Wow, are you kidding?" The interviewer replies, Yeah, but you started it.
Thank you, John. In addition to Dean Doucette, Bill Dodd is also moving to Raleigh. So I'm assuming they'll either be, hopefully be transferring and continue to become a Rotarian. So we're losing two valuable Rotarians, unfortunately. Suzanne Trollin has our program today.
I somehow kind of walked into this because I was trying to get first in line to invite Dr. Adel to come and visit at Rotary, and when I called his office, I found out that he was already scheduled to speak at Rotary, so he's kind of getting a baptism by fire for his first visit to the club. He's going to be our speaker. His bio is in the spoke, but I got a little bit more information that I wanted to share with you. He started his career as a special education teacher and moved into leadership after several years, and really did a great job in being a principal of a middle school where they were recognized as School of Distinction. And when he was doing his doctoral degree, his thesis was on mentoring the principals, and I think that's a really interesting point, that we spend a lot of time and emphasis on mentoring junior children or people in their careers, but there are people in key leadership positions who need mentoring as well. So I want to go ahead and turn the podium over to Dr. Adel.
Just for the record, I had a birthday too.
What was it?
Yeah, it was way back. It was back in August, so I'm going to make sure that I make you guys remember that. I don't get that recognition at home, and it gets worse as you get older. I am glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you a little bit about education. When they asked me to come and speak, the question that I had was, what would you like me to talk about? I can go in a lot of different directions, and kind of narrow it down. Really want to talk a couple of things, a little bit about the state of education as I see it in North Carolina, specifically public education. And secondly, I'd like to just touch a little bit on Hickory Public Schools. So the state of education in North Carolina, I do think that we are in a situation where accountability will never go away. It's hard for my colleagues to understand that, but public education is one of the biggest expenditures, if not the biggest expenditure that our legislatures have. And they are going to make sure that there's some level of accountability in regards to how that money is being spent. And I get it. On the flip side of that, I do think that there are folks that are lobbying for the dismantle of public education as well. I think that there are a lot of folks that are dissatisfied or have been dissatisfied with public education, and they would like to see more parental choices, and I'm certainly not opposed to that. But I do believe, in my own personal opinion, they're going about it the wrong way. You cannot revitalize a program by stealing from Peter to pay Paul. And that's basically how the budget has been operated for the last few years. It makes no sense, in my humble opinion, for thousands of teacher assistants across the state to sit all summer long wondering whether or not they were going to have a job in August. That's just not being human, and it's not fair. And this is not the first time that has happened. We've seen that happen over the last 3 or 4 years. It's always some group of individuals that do not know whether they're going to be employed when school opens each year. Something needs to be done about that. I think that, the Superintendents Association and the Principals Association and the Teachers Association are constantly lobbying in Raleigh to say this has to stop, but to deaf ears. So my message to folks is, when you go to vote, know who you're voting for and what they stand for, and ask yourself the question is whether or not they're going to represent your best interest and your community's best interest when they get the position. So that's kind of my idea of public ed. Let me tell you a little bit about Hickory Public Schools. I'm in my 3rd week. So I can't, I probably will be able to stay within my 20-minute time limit. But I'm really fortunate to have been selected to come to Hickory as their next superintendent. For a long time, I've always wanted to be a superintendent, but I didn't want to operate a system that was the size of Buncombe County. 26,000 students, 43 schools. It's a real large job. I wanted to start with a small district where I would have an opportunity to intimately know the community, the principals, the teachers, the students, so that we can all together make a difference. And that's exactly what I found in Hickory. Hickory Public Schools is a wonderful school district. I've been in all the schools, many of them more than once during my 3-week period. And each time that I go into a school, I'm amazed at the level of engagement that the students are and how caring those teachers are towards those students. And that's even at the high school. I recently walked into Hickory High, and there was a child there, female, that was just having a really bad morning, and she was just being so well taken care of by the staff there. They were just loving on her, and that's what she needed. Because we really don't know what baggage they have when they come through our front doors in the morning. We really don't know. So we have to be open-hearted, and we have to give, and they are. Hickory did not fare as well as we would have liked in last year's report card standing. That's not a secret. Anybody that reads the newspaper knew about that a while back. What they don't know is what wonderful loving is going on in those buildings and how much those teachers care about those kids. The standards that we're teaching are much more difficult than they were years ago. Kids are having a hard time understanding the concepts that we're teaching at every grade level. And that was intentional. I think the State Department wanted to raise the bar, and unfortunately the implementation was very quick, and it was all at once. It wasn't gradual. And so we're finding, all of our districts are finding ourselves in the mode of catching up. But in fact, I am. In January, my kids will be attending Hickory Public Schools. I believe in the school district. I believe in what I've seen. I believe in the numbers. I know these folks care about these kids. And I know that there's a lot more that goes on in a school than a performance grade that comes by a state report card. The grades, as they are designed, only show 20% of growth. And then the other 80% of those grades are derived from performance. And that's probably not the best way to do it. It doesn't really give you a full account of what's going on in the schools. If I've got a student who is making a D, and I work myself to death all year long to get that child to make a C, and I may be doing all I can, and that may be the best that that child can do. You mean to tell me that that's only going to count 20% towards my total school score? Doesn't seem fair. If you're doing all your homework in a class that you were taking in college, you are going to all those biology labs that last 17,000 hours, and you were turning all that work in, and you didn't do as well on the midterm and final, but you made a very high mark on the homework and labs. It'd be a shame if those homework and labs only counted for 20% of your grade. You wouldn't pass biology. That's what we're seeing in public schools. They've made it very difficult for us to achieve. Now, with that being said, let me tell you where I think our needs are in the community. You have a lot of 4-year-olds, and I was just explaining this. There are a lot of 4-year-olds in Hickory that are getting their basic skills by watching TV. They are not in the pre-K program. And let me tell you what happens when that occurs. You remember me saying that the standards are much higher from grade 1 all the way through grade 12. So if we don't have, if these young people who are probably economically disadvantaged to some extent, if they don't have access to a quality pre-K program, they come to first grade, kindergarten, first grade behind, significantly behind, because they got all their teaching from television, daytime TV, Jerry Springer. So with that being said, our teachers don't have enough time in the time that they get into kindergarten and get to the 3rd grade to catch skills up. We're working ourselves to death, but the child is already behind. So by the time they get to 3rd grade, we may have done, and I'm pretty sure we have, based on our numbers, our due diligence shows that we're about second grade, 5th month reading in 3rd grade, still not on grade level. But you have to understand, 3rd grade, it takes it a step up because that's a testing year. That's the first testing year in the state of North Carolina. So that by the time we get started, we can't finish getting him caught up before we're already preparing for the test. So the child takes the test and he doesn't do well. And here's where it gets really sad. You would think that, well, we'll just remediate that child and he'll be fine the next year. The system doesn't allow for that. We will do it, but the damage has already been done. We're going to put a mark on his forehead. It's going to say slow learner. And ladies and gentlemen, he will be taught as a slow learner from the 4th grade through the rest of his public school career. We are making decisions based on 3rd grade scores as to whether or not a child entering high school as a 9th grader has access to college preparatory classes. Little fact known is that, did you know that the prison department, they determine the number of prison beds that are needed in this country based on 3rd grade reading scores?
That's right. Works for somebody.
Because the way it is that if you cannot read, you will lead to a life of crime. That's the belief. So we've got to change that. It's a systematic, it's systemic. It's not just in Hickory, it's statewide. We've been doing it for years. Now you think about that child who is a hard-working 7th or 8th grade student who makes straight B's, studies all night long, just isn't a good test taker. That young lady doesn't have opportunity to take AP classes in high school. So by the time she gets ready to graduate high school, she's not going to have the readiness skills to go on to a 4-year university. She's going to end up at CVCC or some other institution before she could transfer out. Is that fair? No. That decision was made back in 3rd grade. Now for your kids and for my kids, we would never allow that to happen. We would be in the schools advocating for our child to be in classes that offer rigor. But for the disadvantaged, the economically disadvantaged, they may not know that they have that right. And most of them do not exercise it. So that's where No Child Left Behind really comes into play. Because we actually are leaving a number of kids behind. So that's my stance. We're going to fix it, at least in Hickory, so that we're not doing that. We're going to offer more rigor for these kids. We're going to look at doing some summer school programs. Thank you very much. We're going to do some summer school programs. I've talked to Sandy about the possibility of getting an old bus, and we're going to wrap it and fill it full of books and drive this bus into these communities where kids don't have access to the library in the summers and let them check out books all summer long. We're going to really push reading. Working with Partnership for Children to try to write some grants to see if we can reach more 4-year-olds who are not getting access to the pre-K program, because that's where the rubber meets the road. We're going to spin our wheels if we don't find these 4-year-olds and get them in school and get them ready for school. And that's what we're going to be doing. In the meantime, the charge that I've given all of my staff in my 3 weeks is that I really want us to focus on personalizing education throughout Hickory Public Schools. We're going to be looking at specific students and their needs rather than a group of students and that group's needs. And we're going to move forward in that. I think that if we're able to do that, we can catch some of the areas that need remediation and really have an impact on student achievement over time. But it's not a quick fix, and I understand that, and I think they do too. But it is the step in the right direction. So that's me in 3 weeks. I was told that once I finished, and I guess I'm officially done, I try to stay within my 20-minute time, that I can open it up for questions. So if any of you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer those. Yes, sir?
I don't know if it's really a question, it's a statement. Two things. First of all, I love No Child Left Behind and helping those less advantaged out. The thing that I've witnessed with 2 kids in elementary school so far is that the ones that are being left behind are the ones that are more advanced. And so they're the ones that are ending up at Hickory Day School there. What can we do to address those?
We're reviewing, that's a good question. I did ask Amanda Bird, who is the person in our office that handles the AIG students and look at the rigor that we're offering those students. The problem has always...
Not necessarily AIG, just...
Well, what happens is that the AIG is normally grouped with the high average because you can't just have a class of AIG. So those real good students are always grouped usually together. We just have to look at what we can do to challenge them. We're in such a model from the years past of teaching whole groups that that's going to have to be thrown out the window. And that's one of the things that I've said before in regards to personalizing education. We've got to look at each individual child and really determine what their needs are. But we are going to do that, and we're going to try our best to do more challenging things with that group of kids.
Well, and then I appreciate that, and we've had a great experience. The second statement I had is one of my good friends, his son just graduated from Hickory High last year and got a full scholarship academic to Vanderbilt. And so they had Parents Weekend 2 weeks ago, and it was reported to his parents that so far it's easy that he's repeating what he learned in high school. So that's great.
Yeah, and that's good stuff. Yeah, that's well, Hickory High School had about, I believe I read somewhere close to $15 million worth of scholarship money that was awarded to their students last year. So that speaks volumes for the quality of education for that group. You know, there's a whole lot more, and this goes right back to my opening statement. There's a whole lot more that goes into public ed than a score that the state assigns you at the end of the year. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into educating, and it takes a village. Yes, sir.
Comment on the Common Core concept that's being distributed as we speak. Give us an idea of how that's supposed to work, or if it is.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. The question is to talk a little bit about the Common Core. Let me just say that I'm gonna give you my opinion. That's all I can offer you right now, because in my position, we can talk later. When the states years ago took the $40 million or whatever it was that the federal government was using to bail out states that mismanaged their educational programs, they signed a contract with the devil. I'll just be very honest with you. They ended up that's that race to the top legislation. They ended up signing off by saying to the federal government that we will do the following. What happened during that time is that we allowed the federal government to intrude into public education, which was a big mistake. That took away local and statewide rights, and thus born the Common Core. But you got to think about it. Who's going to give you $40 million or $40 billion, whatever it is, and not have some say in how your organization is operated? So there are good components to the Common Core. I will speak that I love the idea of really enhancing the rigor. There are some problems, I think, with it. We've got a lot of parents that are frustrated because specifically the math. They don't know how to help their children with it, and kids can only do it the Common Core way. So if you knew how to do a computation one way and get the right answer, it doesn't matter because the child will get it wrong unless they do it the Common Core way. I think the bigger problem with Common Core, in my personal opinion, is that it was implemented way too fast, and that we have a lot of folks across the state trying to teach a curriculum that they fully don't understand. Yes, sir?
What about teacher recruitment and retention? The Carolinas have lost a lot of quality teachers.
Yeah.
What do you see happening there to ensure that these kids, students, are in fact being exposed to the best teachers possible?
Well, the first thing that I noticed when reading the newspaper after the budget was passed was that it really does appear to me that the state, the legislators are really trying to run away teachers that have 20 years or more experience. They don't really want to pay their salaries anymore. Because all the salaries are given to those on the early end, and $35,000 certainly isn't nearly enough money. Most of the teachers that I know that are new teachers have second jobs. You can't live on $35,000. I mean, I'm basing my opinion on what I've seen in Asheville. I mean, it's $900 for a one-bedroom apartment there. $35,000 won't cut it, so they're in the local restaurants, waiting tables and things of that nature. You have a challenge here. We have a challenge here in Hickory. Asheville doesn't have that challenge. Everybody wants to move to the beautiful mountains of western North Carolina. They hire 200 teachers a year. They probably have over 1,500 applicants. We don't have that here. Just because of where you're located, it's attractive to some people that are familiar with the area. What we're doing is at Hickory Public Schools, we're going to develop a full-fledged marketing plan so that we have something in place when we start going out to these schools and recruiting. We're also going to be looking at where we've been going to recruit and seeing whether or not the data supports the fact that if we're getting students from there. We may not be getting a lot of kids graduated from Chapel Hill unless they're from Hickory. They may want to stay in Raleigh or go to a larger metropolitan area. They may not want to come to Hickory. But we could have success going to the University of Tennessee, where those kids are looking to get away from home, and we offer that just a few hours away from mom and dad. Same looking topography when you get here. So we're going to strategically try to place ourselves in places where we would have a better chance of bringing teachers in. The larger thing for us is not just getting them, but how do you keep them here? Because once they get here, they leave after a year or two. And that's something that we're going to be addressing. One of the things we have to do is get them linked up in the community with the faith leaders. We have to make sure that they have a church and make sure they have the Rotarian group. And they need to make those connections in the community. That's what's going to keep them here. We also have to make sure that we have a good mentoring program in our schools. Research supports the fact that new teachers will stay in the area because of the relationships that they form with the adults. It has nothing to do with kids. So we've got to do a better job at that. And the other thing that I'm challenged with, and I'm going to have to figure out a way to do this, is that kids that are graduated from college now have tremendous amount of debt. So they're leaving college with $30,000, $40,000, at Vanderbilt, $190,000 debt that they have, and they're broke. So how do you take a kid who is from the other end of North Carolina and get them to Hickory to start living, and they won't get paid for a month? They have no money. So we've got to figure out how to make that transition easier. And I think there are ways to do that, working with some of the business partners here. Maybe we can get some help with electricity. Maybe we can get some help with housing. We just have to make it a bit more attractive and remove some of the barriers for these young teachers moving in our area. I know that Buncombe County, along with Asheville City Schools, have went into a partnership with the State Employees Credit Union, and they're building deluxe apartments for teachers in Asheville. And that construction is underway right now. I think there's going to be about 30 units, and these are very high-end, but they're specifically for teachers, so that each of the LEAs have so many apartments that they can rent out. Rent's very reasonable. It's not, they don't get charged until after they get their first paycheck. So you take away the barriers, then I think that we can find that we will have a good quality of teachers that will come to Hickory. Yes, sir?
Well, first of all, I think you should recruit North Dakota. You should go someplace that this is more attractive, all right?
Alaska.
Now, let me ask you this, on the pre-K.
Yes, sir.
If funding is the issue for people that can't get the kids into pre-K, is that the case?
Yes.
Then, do you know of any models of sponsorships or programs for assisting that?
Well, I think that I don't know of any models. I do know that there are organizations out there that will offer funding that will allow the pre-K programs to add additional teachers, and when they're able to add these teachers, then we're able to add more kids.
But is the problem then you're not being able to add kids now, teachers or funding? Funding from the families?
I think it's both. I think that we've got a funding issue where we can't add teachers. And I think they're running thin because they're serving not only the city, but I guess the county of Catawba as well.
If you had funding from the families, would it be enough to sponsor the teachers?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I've been working with the Kim Holden Partnership for Children, and we're just now exploring those possibilities. We do know that there's enough four-year-olds out there that we could fill a number of classes. And they really do try to keep those class sizes down because they're four-year-olds. They're completely uncontrolled. but yes, I'll bring more information to you as we go through it. Yes?
Our club was instrumental in helping to get Imagination Library started.
Yes.
We've been a major funder of that program since its inception here in Hickory. Have you had any experience with that would indicate that is a good use of our, has that been a good endeavor on our behalf, in your opinion?
Yes. From my understanding, they're up to 5,000 books out and are users. And so, yes, the community has embraced that. But that probably is not reaching some of the population that we need to reach. And the more difficult ones is where we need to go. Any other questions?
Over here.
Yes.
I was getting a document notarized this morning, and for whatever reason, it led to a discussion about penmanship. And both the notary and myself were wondering if cursive writing is still being taught in the public schools now that kids are using tablets and computers and whatnot.
Yeah, most teachers are. I mean, it is a life skill that we do teach. We just don't emphasize it.
What is it? The second grade that they teach it?
Usually, you know, but it's not overly emphasized. Is it third grade? It's third grade. Jenny was saying it's third grade, so it's third grade that they're taught. But we kind of braze over it. It's not something, because you can electronically sign stuff now, and that's what kids are doing.
Mitzi, one more question.
Can you talk about the school bus idea and the library and the costs maybe associated with that?
Yes, yes. The idea that I have is to take an old, and I say old, but a retired school bus, and can probably get it relatively cheap from the school bus garage. You buy wrapping, like you would wrap a vehicle, and it will just say something about read to achieve, or read something, you know, catchy. Convert the inside into shelving so that we have a number of opportunities to put books in there, and then do a community book drive to fill it and keep it stocked. And then the only, you know, that would be a few $1,000s for the bus. The only large expense I think we would have would be the maintenance of the bus, keeping it up, and then the driver. And taking that bus into the communities and allowing kids to exchange books on a regular basis in these communities where kids don't have access to material like that. it's been a success in many other areas. And you don't do this at a select period of the year. This is something that's year long. You know, if the weather is good, you stay on schedule and take that bus into those communities, and you do it through the summer. It just doesn't stop. It's continuous. And what you're trying to do is you're doing two things. You're giving out reading material, but the larger picture is that you're promoting literacy, and that's really what we want to do. Thank you all.
Thanks.
That's great. So.
Thank you. I think Hickory Public Schools and us were very lucky to have you here and happy to have you here in Hickory. Bob, come on down. Don't forget about your loose change and dollars in the cart buckets, and sign-up sheets. We've got a bunch of them over there on the counter, so please grab those on your way out as well and sign up.
$55 today.
$55 today?
Total of $341.
We're up to $341. We've got, I don't know, 46 cards roughly left, give or take. Last three digits, 575. We got our winner from the back. From the back of the classroom. Okay. We've got it. Two of diamonds. Free lunch. Let's close with the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do.
Is the truth, is it fair, all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships, with the beneficial to all concerned?
That's it.